right, this is homework help for 3.3, starting with number 31. I've written the problem on the board. It wants to go to transformational form. We do that by completing the square. All right, so I'm going to isolate this part of it and factor out the -3. That's what I'm going to complete the square on. So when I factor out a -3, I'm dividing by -3. So it's -3 times x squared minus 2x minus 1. I'm not factoring anything out of this 1. All right, so I take, because I'm going to, whatever I add in here, I'm also going to add out here. All right. So we take half of -2 and square it. That's just 1. I'm going to add 1 here. All right, what's important is that you know that if I add it, whatever this is, I need to do the opposite because it's on the same side of the equal sign. All right, so here what have I effectively done? I've effectively subtracted 3 because -3 times 1. So if I've subtracted 3 here, because this is the value that I've added to that side, then I must add 3 out here. All right, so it's -3 times x minus 1 squared. I combine those plus 2, and this is that equation. You hear Ben? Oh, he's whining. That is the equation in transformational form. That's 31. All right, 33. You also want to go to transformational. All right, so it's 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 6. Just multiply the binomials, leave the 2 out because that's going to be your A value. Or do I want to go ahead and multiply it all first? You know what? I'm going to multiply it all. And then I'll factor it out. So this is going to be 2 times, I just think that's easier, x squared plus 5x minus 6. I really could move the 6 out. I just know it's -12 because it's 2 times -6. So I actually know that's -12. Should I do that? I won't do that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and distribute the 2x, then I'll factor it back out. Plus 10x minus 12. See, I knew that this was minus 12. So just out of these 2 terms, I'm going to factor out a 2. So it's 2 times x squared plus 5x minus 12. Now I take half of the b value and square it. And remember, whatever I add in here, I've got to subtract out here because this is a positive. Right before we had the -3, so it was a negative. So that's why I had to add it on the outside. But this is going to be 2 positive, so I'm going to subtract it. And it's going to be 2 times whatever this value is. So that is 25/4, right? Plus 25/4. So it's 2 times x plus 5/2 squared. And this is going to be times 25/4. Well, that just becomes 25/2. All right, so if I take 25/2 and I'm going to make this 2/2. All right, so that's minus 24/2 minus 25/2. So that this becomes minus 49/2. So it's 2 times, open parentheses, x plus 5/2 squared minus 49/2. That's number 33. Number 37 on the same page says, if the vertex if the vertex of f of x is x squared plus bx plus c, and the vertex is at 2 and 4, find b and c. Well, I know this x value. The vertex is going to be at the opposite of b all over 2a. I know a is 1. So I'm going to plug, this is the x value of the vertex. So 2 equals the opposite of b all over 2 times 1. All right? I'm just going to multiply both sides by 2. And we have 4 is the opposite of b. Now multiply by -1. b equals -4. All right, so that's my b value. All right. I know that if I plug 2 in for x, right, I get a y value of 4. And I know my b value, so the only variable I'd have would be the c value. So that's what I'm going to do. So for my y value, I'm going to plug in 4. For my x value, I'm going to plug in 2. I know my b value is -4. I know x is 2. I just don't know what c is. All right, so we'll solve this. 4 equals 4 minus 8. Is that right? Plus c, that's -4. So I'm going to add 4 on both sides, so c has to be 8. So b is -4, c is 8. All right, so we went backwards in the formula. All right, 49. 49 says, a ballpark manager concession finds that if the vendor sells an average of 40 boxes, that's boxes of popcorn, per game, when there are 20 vendors are working. Okay, all right, there we go. For every additional vendor, there's 1 fewer box sold. So, as I increase the vendor by 1, I decrease the number of boxes by 1. As I increase the number of vendors by 2, I decrease the number of boxes by 2. So my vendors equals my boxes. I'm going to make that x. All right? So x equals vendors and it equals boxes because it's a 1-to-1. All right, so let's listen to what it says. For every additional vendor, so as I add 1 vendor, what happens? We lose 1 box. How many vendors should be hired to maximize sales? So we're looking for a maximum point. All right, so that's our equation. All right, let's go ahead and multiply it out. What is that, 800? Remember? Okay, here's what you have to remember. We start with 20 vendors. So when we figure out the value of x, the maximum of x, we're going to add it to 20 because we already have 20. All right? All right, then we're going to have, is that plus 20? X minus x squared. Okay, I'm going to move it around. Minus x squared plus 20x plus 800. I want the vertex. That's going to be my max. I know it's open up. It's going to look like this. I want my maximum point. So my x value of the vertex is the opposite of b all over 2 times a. Well, that's 10. That's the maximum point. That's not the answer, remember? I've got to plug that in. How many vendors? It's 20 plus 10, so there's 30 vendors. 30 vendors gives us the maximum profit.